if that's what kind of sparked them today, I'm glad, because I think if there's one criticism that has been talked about with this group, even Mike Brown's mentioned it, is that this team at times is just not vocal enough with each other.
Well, if they are vocal, they communicate with one another, but I feel like the communication style is very like they process things and go back and maybe can communicate it later in the locker room, where that shit sometimes just has to be said on the floor, like in a constructive manner. Like sometimes you see Sabonis do it and you see people get in like little arguments and you go, is that constructive? And I go, you know what I like about it though? It's being said. It's being verbalized right there. And yes, you're right. I don't think we see enough of that.
So, it's one thing for Mike Brown and the coaches to be ripping guys. We've seen Mike Brown getting to lay into guys this year. Herter recently. He's calling early timeouts sometimes, getting on guys. But you want to see that type of accountability, them hold each other accountable.
Yeah.
And whatever was said, whatever it was just a challenge or like a rah-rah inspiration, like we got to bring it. They have to understand the moment. This is March 1st now. This is like, we don't have a lot of time with like, oh man, tough loss tonight. We got to bounce back. 5 through 10 in the West is jammed right now. The Warriors are starting to play some really good basketball right now. They're just 2 games behind Sacramento. The Kings are still just a game out of the 5th spot, but that's how fragile everything is. And these games coming up, especially the schedule that lies ahead, you got to lock in. So it sounds like, based on the reports, that like these players really emphasize the physicality and not folding and allowing like 28-4 runs.
Yeah.
And I thought tonight they took some punches. Runs are going to happen in the NBA. Minnesota went on a run. They went on a run to start the 4th quarter. Sacramento didn't fold tonight.
No.
They kept battling. They competed their asses off. They won without their 2 best players on the floor in overtime. We talk about the players meeting. Well, the Sacramento Bees, Chris Biederman, just published a story about that players only meeting. Malik said, we had a team meeting to talk about how we have to take this shit seriously because we got 23 games left now. The coaches are going to say what they're going to say, but we're out there playing. We knew we had to come together and outwork somebody. I love that. Mm-hmm. Herter says, I think a large part of it is just getting on the same page. I think it was a time for us players to talk about and take ownership of what we're doing, talk about things we think are successful for us and have been happening on the court, things that aren't, and just do it in a setting away from coaches so we could talk about it. It was productive. Davion Mitchell said, we were saying that we just have to come together. We just can't lay down when teams go on runs. We can't put our heads down when we're not scoring the ball. We just got to play harder. Wow.
Again, they can be honest with each other.
Talking about the difference between this year and last year, Herter says, I think externally it feels different. Last year, we were the darling of the NBA. Anything we did, everybody was loving it. It was positive. This year, with expectations and the West being better, we're kind of in a similar spot record-wise, but it just feels different. We're grinding, scratching, and clawing every game, and we need to. It feels like there's a lot of times this year when we've had big wins, and this feels like a big win right now. Kind of tells you how the season has gone. We're needing every one.
And you know why else they probably felt that way is because they played good basketball against the number 1 team in the West without their star player in De'Aaron Fox. I mean, you got to be proud of that. You got to do. We always talk about how hard it is to win in the NBA, and you have to make sure to soak in these moments.
Let's hear what Mike Brown had to say post-game. Let's hear a little Mike Brown.
Guys talked about having a players-only meeting in Denver yesterday. Just how do you view that as a coach? How gratifying is it for you to see guys take ownership and then come out with an effort after that meeting like they had tonight?
I freaking love it. I've been this is me. I've been talking internally to our front office, to our coaches, even to our team. We won't reach the heights that we can reach until you guys take ownership. As a head coach, you could push and carry the group only so far. There's got to be a point in time to where it comes from within, and they talk to one another and they hold each other accountable and they take ownership in whatever the heck is going on in front of them. And so for them to have that for the first time, man. I actually went out and had a drink last night. It was partly because of that.
Hell yeah, Mike Brown. Very happy to hear his team talked it out, and that's exactly what I was just saying. That players only thing. You just hope it. You hope it's not a one game thing, and I think that's the biggest thing where Kings fans. I'm not saying all, but I'm sure a lot of them. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking the same thing. Okay, what's gonna happen Monday? Like Monday night chat. What are we talking about? Are we talking about, dude? They let one go against the Bulls, like. DeRozan
Depends
had a
on
big
how they
game.
play.
And that's the thing is like you did it for a game. And we've seen these moments, these flashpoints throughout the year. And there have been ones where I'm like, man, I think this is when they turn the corner. And then they have like a loss to the Detroit Pistons at home. What the hell just happened?
Yep.
So you just hope, all right, Monday, hopefully Fox can get back after not playing for a minute. And you can kind of have this mentality, this fight, this physicality, this resilience that you have lacked at times this year and have that through the rest of the year.
Yeah. I think, I mean, the amount of times that we brought up the word consistency since the beginning of the season, I forget a lot of things, but I won't forget when you asked me like 20 games in, how would you describe this team? And I said, inconsistent.
Yep.
That was my word. And I think even you thought, well, can they find a way out of that inconsistency? I'm like, well, no, I think this is who they are. And show me these last 23 games.
You got to prove it.
That you have found consistency toward the end of this season, when it matters most. But we'll see.
Let me tell you why I'm bullish, why I'm confident about this.
Why?
One, I'm kind of a homer at times. We know. No, but in all honesty, 23 games left. Mm-hmm. 23 games left.
Yeah.
15 at home. The Kings have played the fewest home games in the NBA this year. The fewest. Yes. This month, March 1st, baby. The Kings have 16 games. 11 of them are on the home floor. 5 against teams below 500.
Correct.
This is a take care of business month. You have to use what happened tonight, winning in a tough place on the road, has to carry into this month. I looked at the schedule today before the game. I counted 11 wins if they're locked in.
Oh, did you?
And I did not include tonight.
Counted that.
I did not include tonight going into it. I'm looking at the schedule, Morgan. I know this game's dangerous. But I'm looking at the losing teams they're playing throughout this stretch. Let's just briefly go over some of it. I don't want to run down the whole schedule. Everyone can look at it. But Chicago, below 500. The Spurs are going to be here next week. They're below 500. The Rockets are below 500. Those 3 games right there. You have to take advantage of these. You saw the Memphis Grizzlies coming to your place. That's a 4th team under 500. You have a road trip that features the Raptors and the Wizards. 2 games, 2 teams below 500. You take on the Utah Jazz still. You still have games. Again, you have the final game of the season's a home game. We all know the final games are always weird. It's against Portland. There's opportunity here this month and the rest of the season to get fat. It's home cooking time. You have to propel yourself into the top 6. You have to avoid a plan. You have to find consistency going into the playoffs. There's no better time than now to do it. You just went over your rough stretch. You just went over having 15 of 19 on the road and then coming out of the All-Star break and taking on 2 of the best teams in the Western Conference without your best player. Tonight, you locked in. Can you lock in Monday? You got to lock in. And then you got to start winning some games. You got to beat some teams above 500, but you take care of business against the bad teams. There's no more losing games to teams below 500. It's over. It's done. People want to freak out about the roller coaster ride of the standings. They're in 10th. They're in 7th. You know what? They've got a magical opportunity. Their schedule looks nice. Take advantage. All right, now cut that. And Mike, you play that for the players in the locker room before next game.
Good. With dramatic, inspirational music underneath.